There's a kind of burnout that doesn't show up in spreadsheets or to-do lists. It doesn't come from too many projects on the go or not enough hours in the day. This kind of burnout comes from being the one who's always adjusting, always softening, always sensing when something feels off in the room. And so you step in to fix it. Now, it's not called burnout on the outside, perhaps. People probably call you thoughtful or supportive or empathic. But on the inside, it's absolute collapse. Not all at once, mind you, but slowly, layer by layer, until you forget what it feels like to speak without flinching, or to sit without bracing yourself, or to feel something without needing to edit it. This is not about being nice. This is about survival. See, some of us grew up learning that emotional peace wasn't a baseline. It was more like a job. And so we made it our job. We learned to notice every shift, every tone, every tightened jaw, every pause that hung a little too long. We, in essence, became interpreters of tension. And the word for doing this well was safety, or the illusion of safety. But no one really told us the price. They didn't say that reading the room would one day mean that we forgot how to read ourselves. They didn't tell us that managing emotional temperature would eventually numb us to our own weather patterns. And they didn't say that being the stable one, like in every storm, would leave us alone in the eye of that storm. Because here's what they don't see. See, behind the calm voice is the clenched jaw. Behind the steady presence is a body that hasn't exhaled in years. Behind the, it's okay, don't worry about it, is a soul that's never actually been asked what it needs. See, we don't talk about that, right? We don't talk about the cost of being the safe one, the peacekeeper, the one who always knows like how to make things better. Because it doesn't look like harm. It looks more like we're bringing harmony. But the thing is, harmony that's built on silence is just erasure in disguise. We don't get medals for this. But we do get worn out. We get brittle, and we get so practiced in managing everyone else's comfort that we forget what real comfort even feels like for ourselves. And sometimes the most invisible people in the room are the ones that everyone is leaning on. Not because they're weak, but because they've become experts at disappearing. It's not that they lack opinions of their own. It's that those opinions never quite feel worth the potential conflict. It's not that they're incapable of anger. It's that anger is just a luxury that they've never learned how to afford for themselves. This is the quiet collapse of the soul that's been too adaptable for too long. You can only comfort yourself so many times before you forget what your actual shape is. So you get so good at making others feel okay that you forget to ask, am I doing okay? And here's the hardest part. Most people will never notice this because you make it look effortless. I mean, you laugh at what hurts, you soothe what shakes, you smile even when every part of you just wants to scream. You don't disrupt, instead you just dissolve. And people call that maturity. They call that grace. They call it strength. But it's not strength. This is compression. And compressed people, they don't get closer to others. They just become easier to carry until one day there's nothing left to carry at all. So we confuse peacekeeping with peace. We confuse being easy to love with being allowed to be whole. Like we confuse emotional invisibility with a sense of virtue. And the truth we miss is this. Behind the ones who make everyone else feel safe, it's not the same as them feeling safe themselves. Like keeping the mood light is not the same as developing a strong relationship. When you're managing like everyone's experience, it's not the same as actually being in your own experience as well. That's the reframe that we've been needing to say out loud, I believe. That we're not actually okay. We're just well practiced. We're practiced at saying it's good, it's fine, right? We're practiced at absorbing discomfort. We're practiced at changing ourselves faster than anyone else can change their mood. But the older we get, the more cracks begin to show. The smile may feel thinner, and the laugh may get a little tighter. The body holds a tension that can't quite be stretched out, and the heart aches for something that we can't even name. And still we keep showing up, and still we manage, and we downplay, and we de-escalate, and we decode. And we do all this not because we want to be invisible, but more so because we never learned what visibility looked like in a safe context. Because when we were children, someone's anger was the weather. And we learned how to bend like trees. We learned how to read the sky, if you will. We learned how to become calm in the midst of their storm. But no one taught us how to become our own. And so now we smile through meetings that feel like dismissal. Now we nod through relationships that feel like erasure. And we say, I'm just tired, when what we really mean is, I've forgotten how to be myself around other people. And the grief of that is enormous. But it's also sacred too, because grief means that we still remember that something better is possible. See, grief, it doesn't always announce itself with tears, does it? Sometimes grief arrives in the form of fatigue or weariness that doesn't come from movement, but from just self-erasing ourselves over time. A heaviness that says, I've been translating myself for so long that I don't remember what my native language is. This grief is not only about what was done to us, but it's also about what we learned to do to ourselves to make it bearable. To in essence, preempt conflict, to cushion every sentence, to diffuse every room. See, we became fluent in tone shifting. We memorized the script of emotional diplomacy. We could read a sigh like a sentence, and we could read an eye roll like an alarm. But in that fluency, we forgot our own voice. We in essence became so fluent in them that we became strangers to ourselves. And we call this maturity. We called it being a good communicator. We call this high EQ. But there's nothing emotionally intelligent about disappearing on ourselves, because here's the pain under all this performance. It's not that we don't get to be known, or that we don't want to be known. It's that we're terrified of actually being known that will lead to true connection. We're terrified that the moment we stop translating ourselves for comfort or something similar, we'll be misunderstood, or worse, will be discarded. So we stay helpful, and we stay easy, and we stay soothing. And the word reward is not closeness as much as it is proximity. We're invited to the table, but not to be real, only to be useful, right? And usefulness, when tied to self-worth, is more like a leash dressed up as a compliment. Let me tell you a deeper truth. Some of us became peacekeepers because we were never allowed to be anything else. We were never allowed to be angry or loud or inconvenient or contradictory. We were just allowed to be easy and sweet and good. And that early programming, it doesn't vanish when we grow up. It in essence becomes a script that we carry into our adulthood, into the partnerships that we form, into the workplace, into every room that we enter. And we don't just want to be accepted, we want to feel safe, right? But we confuse these two things. And so we offer the version of ourselves that's digestible, or palatable or unthreatening. And then we wonder why we feel so alone, even in this connection. But something in us, I believe, is waking up. Something in us is whispering, what if there's more than just being tolerated, right? What if there's this world beyond this subtle withdrawal and overcompensating in the kindness department? What if we could exist in spaces where our presence was not conditional, where we could have needs and we didn't need to apologize for them, where we could actually speak plainly and not have to soften every sentence, where we could perhaps pause and not rush to comfort the silence. That possibility feels terrifying because it's unfamiliar. But unfamiliarity is not the same as danger, is it? Unfamiliarity is just unpracticed freedom. Yeah. And we're ready to practice said freedom now, aren't we? We're ready to move from performance to being present in that moment, from utility to experiencing intimacy, from translation to being true. But how does this shift begin, though? Well, it doesn't begin with declarations or ultimatums. It begins with these tiny sacred interruptions. Moments when we notice a pattern as it's happening and just pause. Now, you might be able to say, no worries, because there's familiarity. You might be about to laugh at something that stung, or you might be about to downplay a moment because you didn't want to be perceived as difficult. But instead of reacting, what if you just take a moment and breathe? And in that breathing, you notice, and you don't push, you don't collapse, you just choose not to disappear. I think this is how a shift could potentially begin, with this small resistance, with these tiny, honest moments, with these moments of integrity that begin to, in essence, stitch us back together. And sometimes these tiny pauses will feel massive. Because it's not just a pause for us, is it? It's almost a reclaiming of that moment. It's our nervous system saying, oh, I remember now. Like, I don't owe anyone the version of myself that I've been given this whole time. It's like the soul whispering, we can be loved without being translated. We are not the climate control system for everyone in this room that we enter. So when we pause and exhale there, that's a moment. It's the sound of someone remembering to make space for themselves. Let me say this clearly. We're not here to be emotionally convenient. We're not here to keep everyone else regulated while we're quietly collapsing in the corner. We're not here to be appreciated for our disappearance or our absence. That's not maturity. That's a form of martyrdom. And we're done pretending that these two are the same. So the next time you feel this pull to apologize for existing, ask, what if I didn't? The next time you sense yourself adjusting to match the room, ask yourself, what if I left the room? No, what if I let this room meet me? The next time someone's discomfort wants to make you disappear, ask, what if this discomfort is the first sign that I'm finally being honest? These aren't rhetorical questions, I think. These can be anchors. They're the ways in which we begin to feel our own weight again. They're ways in which we can rebuild presence after years of disembodiment. These are the ways that we can remember that I don't need to be the peace. I just need to be my own truth. There's a clarity that comes after pain. And it's not the kind that feels triumphant necessarily, but more so the kind that feels the sunrise after a night spent shivering in the cool. It doesn't erase what you've lost, but it shows you that you're done losing now. You're stopping sacrificing sleep to soothe someone else's storm. You're choosing to stop rewriting your emails to make sure that no one misreads your tone. You're done with shrinking every opinion that you have into a question just so that you can keep the air light. Because lightness without truth is really not light at all. It's a weight that you're secretly carrying, and you're done carrying this weight. This is where we stop pretending that quietness is peace, where we stop calling tension this personal failure, where we stop believing that the only way to stay is to stay small. Because closeness without truth is just proximity, and proximity that is without peace, that's loneliness. It's dressed up in company. So let's say it with conviction. We're not here to make everyone else feel more comfortable with themselves by being less of ourselves, right? We're not here to trade anymore our belonging for obedience. We're not here to make our silence the glue that holds broken systems together. What we are here for is connection, not containment. And this can change everything in our perspective. So what does this look like in a life that is still full of people and obligations and dynamics? What does it look like to stay in your integrity when everyone is used to you performing and bending? It starts with discomfort, but not the kind that you're thinking perhaps. It's not the discomfort of guilt. This is the discomfort of you practicing new muscles, you saying no and the room going quiet, or you disagreeing and feeling the heat rise up, not rushing to smooth over a pause and having someone look at you with surprise. And you breathe through that. You don't fix it, you don't fold, you just let it be. Because maybe this moment, this awkward, heavy, stretching moment is not danger. Maybe what this is expansion. Maybe this is the feeling of your life getting bigger. Not because you've added more, but because you stopped subtracting yourself from the equation. See, there will be people who don't know what to do with this new version of you that you're presenting in your authenticity. There'll be people who are used to you smiling through it all, or your softness, or your self-abandonment, or what you're bringing that was perceived as harmony. And when you shift, they'll squint at the outline most likely. They'll wonder where their favorite version of you went, perhaps. Well, let them wonder. You're not responsible for someone else's comfort, especially with your growth. And you're not responsible for managing their memories of who you were. You're not responsible for holding up this version of yourself that they've built their ease around. That was a role that you played. And you are not an actor anymore in their script. You're actually something else now. You're this full-bodied presence. You're a voice with depth. You have boundaries and you're able to breathe through them. You're not louder per se. You're just far more committed to your honesty. And that honesty might feel jagged at the beginning. It might not land cleanly every time, but it's not cruelty. It is clarity. And clarity is what allows connection to truly begin. Imagine this, if you will. A room where you don't need to translate yourself to feel welcome. A relationship where silence is not used as a weapon. Or a moment where you feel your feet are grounded and your voice is steady and clear. And you're able to speak and you don't watch the impact like a child watches a glass that's teetering on the edge of a table. You just let your truth land. That's not recklessness, that's regulation. And it's a skill. One that you're going to be learning now. One that we're all learning slowly and bravely and clumsily, because this healing does not make you perfect. It actually makes you honest. It doesn't make you fearless. It makes you free. And freedom is messy. It's unpolished. It's alive. You'll say too much sometimes, perhaps. You'll fall into old patterns, most likely. You'll apologize when you didn't mean to. And then all of this will become part of your story that's evolving as you shift and change. But all of this is welcome because this is not about getting it right. It's not about disappearing when you get it wrong. See, we've lived too long with this belief that our safety comes from being palatable. But safety that depends on our silence is really not safety at all. It's actually surveillance. And we're not here to be monitored. We are here to be met. We are going to stop translating ourselves. We're going to stop softening. We're going to stop stepping aside so that others can walk through. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to take up space, not as a threat, but as a declaration that we're not here to perform ease anymore. We're not here to embody truth for others. We're here to step into our own truth, the one that will never require our disappearance. There's this version of us that doesn't flinch before we speak. There's a version of us that doesn't have to check every sentence for sharp edges. There's a version of us that doesn't really shrink for the sake of proximity. And this version is not something that's far off in an ideal. It's who we were before the performance became our armor. It's who we are under this practiced calm veneer that we've been wearing. It's who we're returning to one breath at a time, one moment at a time. This is a journey back to ourselves. And it's not about us becoming hard. It's about us becoming whole. And wholeness is disruptive. Not because it's cruel, but because it's no longer willing to disappear anymore. This is what real peace is like. It's not the absence of conflict as much as it is the presence of integrity. Peace is when your inside matches your outside. When your silence is honest and not fearful. When your need doesn't need any justification from others. This is the kind of peace I believe that's possible. And it doesn't start with others changing. It instead starts with you remembering. Remembering that your value was never tied to your tone. That your worth is not determined by how quickly you de-escalate discomfort. That your lovability isn't earned by how well you disappear. So let's anchor here, shall we? When the urge returns to say it's fine, pause. When the apology starts rising that's unnecessary, or when someone looks to you to fix their tension, feel your feet on the ground. This is like repatterning. This is like unwinding, if you will. This is you coming back home. We are not responsible for the emotional regulation of every room that we enter. We are not a sponge. We're not the balm that's necessary for others. We are not a performance that helps others process. We are people who are worthy of presence and not just applause. So let's speak our new truth now, shall we? It's not our job to make sure everyone else feels okay at the expense of our own well-being. It's not our calling to be the safe place if it means that we never actually feel safe ourselves. It's not our destiny to be emotionally convenient so that others don't have to grow. We are allowed to be whole. We are allowed to be awkward. We are allowed to take up all the emotional space in a room without having to edit ourselves, without having to soften, without having to apologize for the depth of our being. Is this tracking? And yes, some people will fall away when we stop translating. Let them. Because the people who stay, the people who meet us, they are the ones who are waiting all along for us to show up in our real selves. They're the ones who are gonna appreciate our authenticity without having us to disappear anymore, without us having to decode after every breath or manage every vibe or anticipate every need. We're not abandoning ourselves for the illusion of closeness anymore. We're reclaiming our space. We are remembering, and we're learning to breathe again. So today, if you're feeling the weight of holding everyone else's peace, if you're feeling the pain of a smile that's been stretched too thin, or if your silence has started to taste a lot like grief, let me remind you, you are not broken. You are awakening. This is not a collapse. This is clarity here. And clarity sounds something like this. It says, I am allowed to exist without adjusting. I'm allowed to speak without bracing. I'm allowed to feel without having to translate. See, you don't owe the world a softened version of yourself. What you owe yourself is you. And you're finally ready to come home. I hope this has served you well. Let me know your thoughts, questions down in the comments. See you in the next episode.